Your Excellency, Martin Shearman, Director, dear colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you here for another Ambassador's Lecture in our series that has been ongoing now for many years, and it really is a great pleasure to have the Ambassador of the UK to Belgium talking to us in this very month, just a couple of weeks after we got this fantastic news of the UK rejoining Horizon Europe program and Copernicus. It is, of course, extremely important for research, and we all know this in the academic community, that the UK takes again its just place in this brilliant network of universities that is providing financing to so many researchers and really creates research collaborations that last for many, many years. Links with the UK are traditionally extremely important for our university as well. I'm not going to go through all the contacts that we have with the UK. That will be part of the introduction that soon will come by our Vice Rector for Research Policy, Jan Doge. But let me just mention a couple of numbers. We have sent over 1,200 students to the UK during the last 5 years for study trips, for internships, and for research. We also have 187 educational agreements with various UK partners, and of course there are plenty joint research projects. One of the major agreements that we have is an institutional agreement with the University of Edinburgh, and we are awaiting the provost of the University of Edinburgh, who is hopefully coming soon. With which university we have concluded a partnership that is really taking effect in various dimensions of the university, in alliances within UNAROPA, as a LERU partner, as a Coimbra partner, but also to co-supervise PhD projects, and we co-finance them also. Currently there are 17 joint PhD projects running with the University of Edinburgh, and maybe even foremost, we are so glad with having the UK back in Horizon Europe because of all the fantastic opportunities that this has created over the past years, and you will get more numbers and more information later, but what we have been using as an argument from our side as KU Leuven for many years, before Brexit and after Brexit, and during all the negotiations, is that about 2/3 of all the Horizon 2020 programs that KU Leuven was a member of included at least one UK university as an additional partner. So there really was a very strong interaction and overlap for many, many years. Of course, we are going to get, I think, a more diplomatic point of view on how things have happened and what this all implies from our main speaker of today, His Excellency the Ambassador Martin Shearman, who is an Oxford alumnus, and of course the University of Oxford is also one of our great partners. He joined, or he came to Belgium in 2019, just in time to settle in before the pandemic came, and then spent a complex time, as we all did, and will stay for another year. He has been abroad for a long period, being at the United Nations office in New York, being responsible for development, humanitarian and human rights, and before that has taken posts in Uganda, Nigeria, Japan, and other places. And he also has been with NATO dealing with foreign and security policy themes that I think could also be the subject of a very interesting presentation. So we are looking forward to his speech later on, and then afterwards we will have a intervention by the Provost Kim Graham, Provost of the University of Edinburgh, who studied psychology at the University of Edinburgh, then later on was in Asia for for some time and did her PhD at the University of Cambridge, moved to Cardiff in 2007 and recently joined the University of Edinburgh as provost. In Cardiff, she was responsible as Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Enterprise, and as provost at the University of Edinburgh. I have the impression that she is responsible for not everything, but essentially everything, certainly for all the funding and also for international collaborations and research collaborations. So without further ado, I welcome you all again, look forward to the speech, but we are first giving the floor to Professor Jan Doge to introduce the topic of today. So, here comes.
Thank you, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. Also, on my behalf, a very warm welcome here this afternoon in this nice theater, and particularly warm welcome to the ambassador of the UK in Belgium, Martin Shearman. It's a pleasure to having you here today. And as Vice Rector for Research Policy at the university, I was given the honor to introduce today's keynotes. And I thought of approaching it by having a look at the research policy plan of the university for the years to come, 22 till 26. And I won't talk through all of this because that could take quite a bit of time, but I would like to take your focus on 2 of the 5 strategic goals that we have set out, namely strategic goal 1 on team science, and strategic goal 5 on capitalizing on the whole research ecosystem. Because actually these 2 out of 5 strategic goals that we have set out are referring to collaboration. Strategic goal 1 is collaboration with our academic colleagues. Strategic goal 5 goes outside of the boundaries of our academic institutions to try to reach out towards other actors to build knowledge together. Is this a coincidence that we have so much focus on collaboration? No, not at all, because we believe that science is all about collaboration and it's a collective effort. Of course, we need great individuals to contribute, but not an individual is capable by him or herself to move the boundaries of knowledge in a significant extent. And therefore, we see science as a collaborative effort intrinsically. Of course, individuals and institutions can be excellent, but if we talk about excellence, it implies that we can refer to something, that we have a framework of comparison. So in itself, the word excellence implies that there is this reference framework. In itself, it means that excellence embeds the collectivity of the activity. So even excellence implies there is a collective nature of the effort. Now, if we look at teams and how we can collaborate, we can do this at different scales. In the policy plan, we talk about the PERI-PI team, so the team around principal investigator. If we scale up, we can see or define teams between PIs, so the multi-PI team, where different PIs start collaborating and execute a joint project. If we go beyond the boundaries of the own institution, we can look at multicentric teams, where we collaborate across institutions. And then if we scale up further, we can talk about scientific societies, which are also a team, maybe teams of people that don't necessarily know one another personally. They may never have spoken to one another, but they build on each other's knowledge and they drive science in that way forward. And all of these levels, all of these skills of teamwork are important to knowledge buildup. All of these ways of collaboration need their specific stimuli. And I have indicated here multicentric collaborations in red, of course, because this will be the major topic of today. How can we have collaborations between UK and Europe, between European partners in general? And of course, a very important tool there is the whole framework program for research funding, the latest one of which is Horizon Europe, which has a budget of about 100,000 million euro, of course to be spread over 7 years, of course to be spread amongst many researchers in Europe, but a very significant amount of money to collectively try to move knowledge forward. And the framework is set up in such a way that we have different pillars. I won't go into details of the whole organization of the system, but pillar 2 in particular is a framework where collaboration between member states, between institutions at different member states is encouraged in order to tackle global challenges, in order to make sure that our European industry remains competitive. And of course also KU Leuven is very eager to work in this framework, to collaborate with others. And if we look at whom we typically collaborate with, we see that in the past 2 frameworks, so FP7 and Horizon 2020, UK was ranked 2nd, where about 10% of the KU Leuven projects, collaborative projects within the EU framework, were in partnership with institutions in the UK. UK in that graph, as you can see, came 2nd just after Germany, but clearly is a very important partner to collaborate for us as a university. Of course, we execute projects. Do we also build knowledge together? We can try to get a glimpse of that by looking at the joint publications. So which publications carry names of people affiliated to KU Leuven on the one hand, to a member state, another European country on the other side. And there again, we see that the joint projects indeed result in joint knowledge buildup, where we have UK here ranked 3rd in terms of joint publications with KU Leuven, 3rd just after the Netherlands, and if you look at the numbers, it's really literally a handful of papers difference on a scale, as you can see, going up to 10,000. So essentially it implies also there, UK is in ex aequo with the Netherlands, our 2nd partner. So bottom line is that UK is a very important partner for us in terms of research. And if we kind of zoom into that literature context a bit more, we see that it's not 1 or 2 institutions within the UK. We see that actually a lot of the UK research institutions play an important role for us to collaborate. And obviously which institutions we collaborate with or not depends a lot on the expertise that these different institutions can offer. It depends a lot on the personal networks that researchers have built. But I think importantly, we see that it's geographically spread across the UK. So this all sounds fantastic. There is a lot of collaboration. We jointly move boundaries of knowledge forward. There is a but, however. If we now also throw in the numbers for Horizon Europe, we see that for most member states, the participation with KU Leuven remains the same. Some go up a bit, some go down a bit, but on average we see, with reference to the previous frameworks, that we continue to collaborate as before within Horizon Europe with the different member states, with the 2 big exceptions, of course, that are very remarkable or clear in this figure, being the UK and Switzerland, that have a marked drop and where actually the participation is not vanishing, but it's definitely going to a very low level. Is this related to some institutions or not? So we can zoom a bit into that. No, it seems to be an overall trend. So we used to have all the institutions participating, as I indicated before, also based on publication records. But we see that overall there is a significant drop in the participation as soon as we enter Horizon Europe. Interesting, if you look at the situation of the University of Edinburgh, and in the meantime the Provost has entered the room, so also a very warm welcome to you. But if you look at the situation of Edinburgh, in the past frameworks they were ranked number 7, so high ranked, but they were not top ranked as participating research partners for KU Leuven. But now, as we enter Horizon Europe, we see that they actually become the number 1 for KU Leuven. And a question may arise, why that kind of change in ranking? And obviously, well, many of you will know that University of Edinburgh, together with KU Leuven, are partners in a university alliance called Una Europa. And possibly the fact that we are together in that alliance mitigates the disastrous effect a bit that we see happening at the other centers. That seems to be confirmed looking at the joint PhDs that we run together with partners in the UK, where by far University of Edinburgh is leading this ranking. Of course, you could argue that there is also funding outside of the European framework, and that collaborations could thus happen with these other funds, so that we don't have to worry too much. We tried to look at this by looking at alternative funding channels, but as you can see, the non-blue part, that's the non-EU funding part, in this graph since 2019, 2020, is also significantly decreasing. So not only the participation in KU Leuven projects funded by the EU, but also through other funding channels is markedly decreasing after 2020. Likely, to my understanding, this is what we could call a kind of collateral damage, where possibly because of the happening with Horizon Europe, the mindset of researchers has become such that it seems to indicate that we do not favor collaboration any longer. And so the kind of joint initiatives markedly drop, not only with EU funding, but also with other funding. Of course, it's not because you don't have joint funding that you cannot collaborate. And so we could have a look at how joint publication behavior behaves over time, where we see that actually UK is here second ranked, as I indicated before. So it's a grayish line just underneath the yellow line that represents the Netherlands. So we see that over the years, there doesn't seem to be too much change. It seems to be quite stable. So you could advocate that the researchers continue to collaborate, they continue to build up knowledge jointly, but probably they then use their own funds that they raise locally through funding channels. A more critical reading of this plot could be that we do know that, of course, publications only come towards the end of research activities. Projects, of course, need to be happening now, and the publications will follow only later. So if we see a steep decay in the number of joint projects that we run today, likely, due to the inertia in the system, we'll see that drop also being represented in the publication output in the years to come. Is this KU Leuven thing in itself, or is it something more general? Well, if we look at this figure on how the UK participates in the framework programs over the years, we see that actually there was a peak around 2015, but as from 2015, there has been a systematic decline, a systematic decrease in the participation of UK institutions in that joint collaborative framework of the European Union. This is a bit surprising because although, and I've indicated this here on the slide, in 2016 we had the referendum related to Brexit. In 2020 we actually had Brexit, but we see that this decay already happened before really there was an official non-association or non-partnership within the framework. During Horizon 2020, UK was a full partner, and yet we see how participation rates drop. In 2022, we entered the Horizon Europe. There was a guarantee fund of the UK. Financially speaking, there was no reason for UK partners not to be involved in these European collaborative projects, and yet we see this continued decrease over the years. So a bit of the question is, why is that happening? And personally, I think this is because of uncertainty, a thing that researchers apparently do not like. And possibly there was no uncertainty from the policy perspective, but clearly from the research perspective, there has been an uncertainty, which has resulted in less commitment towards collaborative projects. Possibly because the continental researchers were hesitant to invite their UK partners because of the unclear or uncertain financial conditions. Vice versa, UK researchers may have been hesitant to enter partnerships in order not to jeopardize their colleagues' success, because what would happen if they enter and then the entire consortium fails because of a hiccup in the financing scheme along the road. So of course we were all very happy to see a month ago now that there was a formal association again of the UK to Horizon Europe. And now the big question, I think, is, and this is what will be addressed in the remainder of this lecture, will this now result in returning or changing this decline towards a positive trend again? Will this happen spontaneously, or are actually further actions required in order to make that turn? And with that, I'll end my introduction, and I'm very happy and honored to introduce to you the ambassador, Martin Shearman, in order to give his keynote lecture. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you too for inviting me today and giving me the chance to talk on this subject. I have to say it's a great pleasure to be here in these beautiful surroundings. As you all know very well, of course, KU Leuven is one of the great universities in Europe. It's got a long and distinguished history. And of course, today it occupies a really central position in the European research landscape. If you'll permit me a small historical digression, of course, its links with the United Kingdom and the United Kingdom's constituent nations have very deep roots. I'm told that one of the very early students here in the 15th century was a Scotsman, William Skeevers, who left Leuven to first become court physician to King James III in Scotland, and then Archbishop of St Andrews. These were the good old days when you could be a student, a doctor, and an archbishop all rolled into one. And of course, just a few meters from here at the junction of Naamsestraat and Standongstraat is where the very first copies of Utopia, the great work of the Renaissance humanist Sir Thomas More, were printed in 1516 when his great friend Erasmus was among the scholars at this university. The links with the UK also, of course, are not just the stuff of history, as we've just heard illustrated, or at least I hope they're not just the stuff of history. Although there has been a dip for the reasons that Professor Dorge just set out, I think the links between KU Leuven and partners in the UK have been, and I hope are and will be, at the very forefront of innovation in a wide range of fields, from deep tech semiconductors to medical and life sciences, the humanities. And we're very lucky in the UK to have people who, in a way, physically embody that link, people like Bart de Strope or Paul de Grauwe and many other top researchers. And of course, again, as we've just heard, the institutional links are exemplified by KU Leuven's agreement and partnership with the University of Edinburgh and the award of joint doctorates and all of the other links. And I should say here how delighted I am that Professor Kim Graham, Provost of the University of Edinburgh, one of the UK's great universities, is also with us today. And I feel she'll issue a corrective to me. I mean, I'm a diplomat, so I'm a generalist, but we're going to hear from a real expert and a real academic. So it's wonderful to have you here as well, Professor Graham. So I have to say, it's really hard to think of a more fitting setting than KU Leuven in which to celebrate the UK's association to Horizon Europe. So as we've heard, the agreement on association to Horizon Europe and the Copernicus Earth Observation Programme was announced by Prime Minister Sunak and President von der Leyen on the 7th of September. As their joint statement said, the agreement is a landmark moment for scientific and space collaboration between the European Union and the United Kingdom, following agreement of the Windsor Framework on the Northern Ireland border earlier this year. From the British government's perspective, it was important to ensure that the terms of association, the financial terms of association, were fair, given that we had not joined the programme at its inception in 2021, as originally envisaged in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement between the United Kingdom and the European Union. And the negotiation on our association was fairly complex and took some time. But my intention today, you'll be relieved to hear, is not to rehash that discussion. The key thing was that it reached the right conclusion. So instead, what I'd like to do is to look forward. Now, in my walk of life, as a diplomat, one of the great cliches is to talk of win-wins. And to be honest, the facts, when you examine them closely, don't always justify the use of that term. Indeed, if a diplomat approaches you with an interesting proposition that he or she describes as a win-win, it's probably as well to be on your guard. But in this case, the term really is more than justified. It undoubtedly is a win-win. UK participation, I'm confident, will make Horizon Europe deeper, richer, and more productive, while being part of Horizon Europe and the access to international collaboration that it brings will help the UK institutions make the most of our many strengths in science, innovation, and academic research. Association to Horizon Europe will, for us, further strengthen and deepen the links between the scientific communities in the UK and the European Union. And again, as we've just heard, there is some research, there is some repair work to do there, I think, some links to reforge and new links to make. It will foster innovation, and it will enable researchers to work together on global challenges, from climate to health. And on our side, the UK government, also on the side of the European Commission, we've undertaken clearly to enable collaboration between researchers in the United Kingdom and the EU, including on new and emerging technologies. UK researchers will participate fully in Horizon Europe programmes on the same term as researchers from other associated countries, including being able to lead consortia from the 2024 work programme onwards. For calls from the 2023 work programme, the European Commission will continue to administer transitional arrangements, and the UK will continue to provide funding under the UK guarantee. But the key thing is that UK and EU scientists and researchers can have confidence in continuing and initiating long-term partnerships with their counterparts. So this is truly something to celebrate. And if you will allow me, let me call on the support of three distinguished witnesses. Firstly, the UK Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, Michelle Donnellan. And she welcomed the agreement on UK association by saying, "Today is a fantastic day for UK science and our whole economy. The Horizon programme is unrivalled in its scope and opens up a world of opportunity for cooperation on science that delivers real-world benefits for the United Kingdom, creating jobs, boosting our economy, and opening up collaboration for the sector with some of our closest partners, whether on tackling climate change or advancing cancer research." So if you harbour any doubts about the commitment of British ministers, of this government, to making a success of our association to Horizon Europe, please don't. We are genuinely very excited about this. Secondly, in support, let me quote Professor Dame Sally Mapstone, who's the president of Universities UK, the umbrella body for the UK's 142 universities. She welcomed the news, saying, "The entire research community within our universities and beyond is delighted at the news that an agreement has been reached. Horizon lets us do things that would not be possible without that scale of scientific collaboration. Allowing our scientists to work together, irrespective of borders, is in all our interests. Our universities will now do everything possible to ensure the UK rapidly bounces back towards previous levels of participation and is able to secure genuine value, delivering the wealth of research opportunities available. So again, a very strong message from British universities of their commitment to making a success of this, of not resting on our laurels, of not assuming that old partnerships are intact, but also of making sure that they're healthy and thriving and making new connections. Now, lastly, as my third witness, and most importantly, given the setting, I would like to cite the distinguished rector of this university, Professor Luc Sels. And his remarks, of course, carry even greater weight given Leuven's preeminent position within Horizon Europe in terms of the number of projects in which the university is involved and the scale of budget that involvement brings. Now, I'm going to apologize preemptively because I'm relying on the media for this quotation, so your words may have been mangled, Professor Sels. But when the news of a UK association broke, you were quoted as saying, "We fought hard for this. This is of much more than just symbolic importance. The UK's return to Horizon was the talk of the day here. The enthusiasm among other European universities is great too. This will undoubtedly give a great boost to academic cooperation in Europe." Now, the next bit is where I wonder whether Professor Sels might possibly have been misquoted. So, noting that Oxford, Cambridge and University College London had previously occupied the top places for the number of projects under the Horizon 2020 programme, he's quoted as saying, "We are happy to give up the #1 spot in Horizon." Sorry. Given the boost the UK's return will give to academic cooperation. Now, as I'm speaking here today at the university that Professor Sels leads, I feel it would be impolite not to agree with him. So let me thank Professor Sels for his generosity and enthusiastically second his wish to see UK universities back at the very top of the Horizon rankings. Now, more seriously, I would like to express my deep gratitude to him and to all of the other Belgian academic leaders who campaigned tirelessly for the UK's re-entry to Horizon. And as I hope you know, your counterparts in the UK, the heads of universities and research institutes, and also of industries driven by research and development, have been every bit as indefatigable in their advocacy of the benefits of academic collaboration across borders and of UK re-engagement in Horizon. Now, given that securing that agreement was so much desired by scientists and researchers on both sides of the Channel, but was nevertheless a long and fairly complicated process, I would just like to say a few words about the UK's broader approach to its relationship with the rest of Europe. For reasons you will know well, this has been much discussed in recent years, and some of you may even feel that the UK has become a little more distant. Well, the UK has of course left the European Union, but we are still where we were. Brussels is still the closest capital city to London. The Channel has not become wider. We're still linked by a narrow strip of sea which is crisscrossed by connections carrying people, goods, ideas, and energy in both directions, the last, energy, both literally and figuratively. Our overriding international priority remains our neighbourhood, our relationship with our European neighbours, along with our ties across the Atlantic with the US. That's essential to our security and our prosperity as a nation. And we're committed to continuing to work to ensure that Europe and the broader Euro-Atlantic area is stable, secure, and able to prosper politically and economically in the years ahead. And we'll play a full role across all the challenges facing the region, from Russian aggression, the systemic challenge posed by China, energy security, migration, revitalizing economic growth. And we also welcome unequivocally the positive evolution of our post-Brexit relationship with the European Union and with our European partners. For our part, we're committed to sustaining this positive trajectory, building strong relationships with our European allies and partners based on values, reciprocity, and cooperation across our shared interests. With Belgium, we are delighted that we have in place a strong mutual commitment embodied in a joint declaration signed by our Prime Ministers in 2021 to work together on issues including shared prosperity, the green transition, net zero, energy security, health and biopharma, defence and security. So what I've just said about our commitment to the rest of Europe is not something that I've just written for the purposes of this presentation, it quotes directly from the British government's National Security Strategy, or the Integrated Review, to use its official name. That same strategy also sets out our commitment to prioritise strengthening the UK's science and technology partnerships around the world. We have, for example, also this year concluded agreements with the US to deepen research and development collaboration on critical emerging technologies, and with Japan on a framework for promoting new partnerships between our academic institutions and universities. So for the UK government, our association to Horizon Europe sits very firmly at the intersection of these two strategic priorities. So therefore, to return to the question posed in the title of this lecture, what would the impact be of having universities back in research partnerships across the Channel? Well, the answer is, I hope, very simple, and we hope, we trust, we're confident that the impact will be truly significant for research partnerships for the UK and for Horizon Europe. The UK will, of course, be a major financial contributor to Horizon Europe, significantly expanding the funding available through the programme, but we will bring much more to Horizon Europe than money. We believe strongly in the value of international research collaboration. The UK is the third largest producer of research publications globally after China and the US, with over 60% of UK research publications involving in international collaboration. It's not just about quantity, but also the quality of research. The UK has the third largest global share of highly cited publications, again after China and the US. And the UK's field-weighted citation impact, in fact, leads all international comparators, US and China included. We're proud to be home to 10 of the world's top 100 universities, according to, I know people in universities don't like university rankings very much, so I apologise profoundly, but nevertheless, it's a benchmark. So we're proud to be home to 10 of the world's top 100 universities, according to the 2023 World University Rankings, including 3 of the global top 10 and 7 of the top 50 universities. And like this university, KU Leuven, British universities have a strong record of turning research into successful startups and growing businesses. By one calculation, there are more billion-dollar unicorn startups in 8 British university towns than in France and Germany combined. So we're also proud of our record in Horizon 2020, which saw the UK establish over 237,000 collaborative links with international partners, with nearly 29,000 of those links with countries beyond the European Union. 1/4 of all projects under the Horizon 2020 programme were coordinated or led by UK institutions. My apologies if this sounds boastful, but I'm just trying to get across the point that we feel we bring a lot to this. The UK's long been a global leader in scientific research and innovation, boasting world-class universities, research institutions, and a rich history of groundbreaking discoveries. British innovation from the steam engine to the World Wide Web has helped bring growth and increased prosperity both at home and around the world. We're not complacent about this, and renewed investment in science and technology and research is central to our future. It's central to our future as a prosperous and influential country, and it depends on our ability to build on our strengths in those areas and also in the financial ecosystem that supports research and development. The British government's National Science and Technology Framework therefore sets out an ambitious agenda, not just for building on past success, but for developing competitive advantage in critical new technologies, including artificial intelligence, engineering, biology, future telecoms, semiconductors, and quantum technologies. So we will bring all of this to Horizon Europe. We've come later to the programme than we wanted, but we are determined to make up for lost time and to bring the same spirit of open collaboration, enterprise, and academic excellence to bear as we brought to Horizon 2020. We see this agreement, this association to Horizon Europe, as a huge opportunity to work in collaboration with researchers from across the European Union and the other associated countries to advance academic research and together tackle some of the greatest challenges and opportunities that humanity faces. The urgency of the energy transition, reaching net zero, the huge implications of AI in the digital transition, accelerating global progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals, the conquest of cancer and other disease, preserving biodiversity and healthy ecosystems on land and in the sea, creation of better jobs and increasing productivity. On all of these challenges, the UK looks forward to contributing through Horizon Europe in collaboration and partnership with academic and industrial researchers from across the European Union and all of the many other countries that are involved in the programme. So to quote my Prime Minister, Prime Minister Sunak, with a wealth of expertise and experience to bring to the global stage, we have delivered a deal that enables UK scientists to confidently take part in the world's largest research programme, Horizon Europe. This is great news. As Professor Doga said, as very well illustrated, there's a lot of work to do now to make a reality of that. But it's an enormous opportunity to deepen research partnerships across the Channel, both to reinforce the existing links, of which KU Leuven, of course, has many, but also to build new connections. And I was very struck in a conversation just before this lecture, the point was made that perhaps for new researchers who've not known the UK be part of Horizon Europe, there's actually an urgent need to try and make those connections, both on the UK side, but also on this side of the Channel as well. So a huge opportunity for the UK most definitely, but I hope also for Belgium, for Flanders, and in particular for this wonderful university. Those great challenges and opportunities that I mentioned are why partnerships between British and Belgian universities really matter. Our two countries are home to some of the most innovative and cutting-edge researchers who are trying to formulate solutions to those challenges. But no researcher, no university, no country can achieve that alone. So I listed some of the UK's strengths. Apologies for doing so, but it's part of my job description. But what I'd really like to use today is to invite all of you to tap into those strengths and to use them to further your research projects. It really is time to create those win-wins, and please don't worry, you can trust this diplomat. So I invite you all to reach out to your colleagues across the Channel and to discuss what exciting projects you could embark upon together under the Horizon flag. I have also to say, if you want to establish new links, if you want introductions, we in the embassy, and I would just like to single out my colleague Anaïs Biclot, who's recently joined the embassy as our Science and Innovation Officer, we would be more than delighted to try and help put you in touch with your counterparts in the UK and with researchers in the field in which you work. Now, very last thing I want to say, and this is on a personal note, after more than 4 years in Belgium, in post as ambassador to Belgium, I have to say there's one additional benefit of UK association to Horizon Europe, and that is that I'm extremely relieved to know that the next time I visit KU Leuven or another one of Belgium's universities, I will not have to struggle to find an answer to a polite but persistent interrogation on when the UK will rejoin Horizon. So there's a lot of work to do, but this is a tremendous opportunity. There's huge commitment on the UK side, from government, from academic institutions. We're determined to make a success of this, and we would like to make a success of this with all of you. So thank you for your attention, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, Ambassador. I suggest we continue immediately with the next keynote by Provost Kim Graham from University of Edinburgh, to then, after her lecture, have a common question and answer session. So please, Provost Graham.
Oh, a bit high up. First of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you for the chance to come and visit and to contribute. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to the Ambassador for the really fantastic words and the commitment to reassociation with Horizon Europe. From our perspective, it is absolutely fantastic news, and I'll outline some of the reasons for that. But it's really wonderful for me to hear that commitment as well from the ambassador, and the joy that he also takes and the opportunities that are now open to us to collaborate and partner and work together to deliver the key research and innovation needs to deal with key societal challenges that we all share. So Europe is a region of considerable importance to the University of Edinburgh through the breadth of our language offerings, our significant European staff and student population, our membership of key European networks and alliances, and you alluded to the importance to us of Una Europa, and our active engagement with key European partners, including KU Leuven. Not being part of Horizon Europe was therefore damaging to our ambitions to work in collaboration with Europe, our partners, researchers, businesses and networks as part of our commitment to the open sharing of knowledge, expertise and working to deliver the very best in research, education and innovation. We warmly welcome Horizon Europe reassociation, and similarly, colleagues across the UK higher education sector are delighted at the new opportunities that brings to build on existing collaborations and generate new ones. At the University of Edinburgh, we have responded quickly to the good news, which aligns to some of the comments about what do we do next in order to really benefit and accelerate these partnerships. So, for example, we're offering funding to our 3 colleges through an internal Horizon Europe collaboration scheme. This aims to encourage early career researchers, in particular, to engage with European peers to develop collaborative bids through visits and partnership meetings. Similarly, universities in the UK are engaging in discussions with European university networks to consider how we can rapidly develop our partnerships and share expertise. For example, I enjoyed a recent trip to Hamburg for discussions between the Russell Group universities and the German U15 universities on this topic, in which we also focused on actions that we could take jointly and together to share that expertise and bring our researchers and potential collaborators together to benefit from this news. While we celebrate the news of reassociation to Horizon Europe, it is unfortunate that we remain outside Erasmus+, which provides significant opportunity for mobility and training between European partners. UK universities benefit from the touring scheme funding. It is more limited than Erasmus+. So, for example, at the University of Edinburgh, we receive 60% less funding to support outward mobility under the UK government's new touring scheme in 2023-24 than we did in the last year of Erasmus+. A key challenge for us, therefore, is how we meet the demand from Edinburgh and UK students to study and research in Europe when we have limited touring funding and when we know they are the pipeline for the bids of the future. During the last years of uncertainty, and you referred to uncertainty, and there's no doubt that that decline comes from not knowing exactly what the future of Horizon Europe might be and whether it's worthwhile engaging in opportunities to be funded through that, as well as developing partnerships from both sides and how successful those might be. We have been buoyed by and are immensely grateful for the invaluable support, commitment and advocacy of European partners for the reassociation of the UK into Horizon Europe. Like us, you recognise that we are less rich when we curtail opportunities to partner and that the research and innovation base in Europe is more impactful when we do. The university's European partner institutions have provided invaluable support to UK universities during these discussions and to the University of Edinburgh specifically, and I thank them all, providing a special mention to KU Leuven for your continuing commitment to partnering with us. It is worth illustrating the importance of these collaborations with some evidence, as they are not just warm words, and I thank you for helping me with this section by providing some data earlier. As partners in KU Leuven's global PhD programme, we co-supervise joint PhD students in cardiovascular science, medical and health humanities, and European studies. From 2017 to 2022, the 2 universities submitted 26 applications with a combined total of 23 million to Horizon Europe. 11 of these applications had either the University of Edinburgh or KU Leuven as the lead. At the end of 2018, the University of Edinburgh was delighted to receive an invite from Rector Sells to join a new European university, UNEuropa, providing us with further opportunity, despite the challenges of engagement with Horizon Europe, to work with some of Europe's top research-intensive universities to build the European University of the future. Since joining UNEuropa in 2020, our researchers have expanded their research networks and submitted collaborative research applications. Academics are trialling new innovative joint degrees, are co-creating new curricula and developing new micro-credentials. Our students are also benefiting from being part of a shared European student community of nearly 0.5 million, half a million students, enhanced by new short-term and virtual mobility opportunities. These are significant chances for us to engage in European partnership and to learn from other universities in Europe, and we thank you for your engagement and allowing us to join your fantastic alliance. The University of Edinburgh is proudly European and proudly committed to working in partnership with European universities, businesses and other organisations to make reassociation to Horizon Europe a success. We worked hard together to achieve this outcome, and we must not squander it. We must show over the next 3 years the value of that partnering, both to government, to businesses and to universities and to our alliances. And I do appreciate, I was not aware of Luke's generous offer to give up the #1 slot. But thank you, Luke, and we look forward to seeing if we can make that happen. The important thing is that that generous comment, which was a public comment, shows the generosity of spirit and the recognition that we are better working together, and Horizon Europe and reassociation allows us to do that. We thank you for your patience and support as this positive outcome was negotiated and finally agreed, and we look forward to working with you over the next few years. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I suggest we hereby can open the questions and answers. So maybe I'll invite both keynote lecturers to move forward again to the stage. We do have a microphone right here. I think there will also be someone going around to the microphone in case there would be questions from the floor. So I'm happy to look around and to see whether anyone would like to raise a question. We don't, unfortunately, have the opportunity today to take questions from the audience online, but if I don't see hands going up, maybe I'll start myself by raising a first question related to the actions that may be required in order to kind of revive the collaborations. And Provost Graham, you already indicated you have kind of initiatives in the University of Edinburgh, but will these be enough? And do you think in general there is enough initiatives being taken by the UK institutions? So I'll pass you the microphone.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I think that's a fantastic question. Will it be enough? Certainly where we've started, probably not. I mean, Edinburgh already has if I talk about Edinburgh and then more broadly, we've always continued to have a strong engagement actually in Horizon Europe, even when we were not associated with it, and continued actually to be pretty successful, particularly with regards to things like European Research Council awards. Where we found things harder over the last few years have been around partnerships and consortium and engagement in larger scale alliances and activities, where there was a kind of more of a reluctance, I think related to kind of uncertainty around the involvement of the university. And we've heard that through other UK universities. So for me, I think there's kind of two levels of intervention. One is about how you support individual researchers to engage in Horizon Europe, and you help them get in touch with or benefit from expertise from others who know the system well in order to understand what's required in order to be successful. So we're doing that. The scheme we've set up is to do that. We've also discussed when we went to Hamburg recently about putting research offices in contact and bringing them together across different European countries in the UK to share expertise and knowledge about where Horizon Europe is at the moment. And then I think there's a question about interventions around how we build on collaborations and partnerships that we've already got, which are still strong and still working on key scientific questions or innovation problems that align to Horizon Europe priorities, and then how do we work and build those new ones. And I think that will probably involve thinking around challenge areas where there is expertise in different partners and bringing them together to talk about opportunities around developing alliances and consortium. So I do think we need to be quick, and I think we need to be agile, and I think the key is about bringing people together to share expertise and knowledge and to identify opportunities of shared interest for collaboration.
Okay, thank you. I fully agree, of course, and probably it's most important even for the young researchers, as they may be less acquainted with the whole European system, and therefore they may need the most guidance in order to be successful. I'm also looking at the ambassador. Is there any initiatives that you think will happen or are required by the government in order to incentivize the UK institutions to reintegrate in a way? So next to the association itself, are there any further side actions on the table or required?
No, thank you for the question. I think it's probably not so much a question of incentivizing, because I think the incentive is huge, it's there. I think it's probably much more about the things that Professor Graham's been talking about, actually the practical work of making sure that people understand what's there, that the connections are forged, and that you can have the kind of discussions that lead to collaboration in the end. I think the only thing that I can add to what Professor Graham said is that in the context of links between British and Belgian institutions, we would be very happy from the embassy to try and play a part in sort of facilitating those discussions. I know that there are already very good links, so we don't want to get in the way of what's already there, but we'd be very happy to try and help provide a platform. We have been doing some outreach from the embassy to Belgian institutions to make sure they are aware of the good news. I'm glad to say most of them were, and were pleased about it. But taking some of those discussions a stage further, perhaps to try and broker some discussions amongst the people in charge of research partnerships and so on, we'd be very happy to play a part in that.
Some initiatives, and then I hand over the word to our Vice Director for Internationalization. Some of the initiatives we have been seeing within our alliance, Europa, is, for example, small seed funds that can kind of stimulate collaboration actively by starting with something small, but then hopefully that will grow to something bigger. But also some budget in order to enable the networking that you're referring to may be very lucrative and helpful.
Yeah, thank you for both the inspiring speeches, and it's really very it's a great pleasure to get all this positive news and to hear these great comments about fantastic opportunities. But despite, of course, the joy that we have of this reunification, it's not really a reunification. So the UK is still outside of the EU, which has implications for the mobility of researchers. The UK is not joining Erasmus, and I don't think there is going to be any change in that policy soon, which has, of course, quite some impact, in particular for the youngest researchers that have built, the people that came from Europe and entered the UK academic world have played a very important role. So there are a couple of hurdles, like not having the possibility to use the EU funding through Erasmus Plus for mobility of PhD students, for instance, but also the more complicated procedures for immigration. So is the UK government taking initiatives to facilitate that and to maybe come up with compensating schemes for young researchers to come to the UK from Europe?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. Yes, I mean, and I'm not surprised to hear it. I hear questions about Erasmus a lot here in Belgium, and I know how deeply a lot of people regret that the UK is no longer a part of the Erasmus programme. We're not planning to rejoin Erasmus, you're quite right. In terms of programmes we put in place, there is a programme to support British students going overseas, the touring programme, which is not just about Europe, but it's meant to support global mobility. I may not have misunderstood this well, but I understand on Erasmus Plus there is still some limited provision for supporting European researchers to go to British universities, but clearly it's not the same as being, as it would be if the UK were a member of Erasmus Plus. In terms of mobility, we are concerned to try and ensure that while we put in place or continue with our sort of post-Brexit policy around migration, that there is good mobility for people coming to the UK to study, to work, particularly in actually in science and tech areas. Now, some of those opportunities are dependent upon a certain level of income, so they might not work for researchers, I agree. So I think there are ways through, but at the moment, yes, undoubtedly, of course, it is less fluid than when we were a member of the European Union. That's all I can say at the moment, but thank you for the question.
Ortwin in the back. Maybe okay, there's a microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, Professor Graham. Thank you very much for your inspiring talks. Professor Graham, you referred to UNAeuropa, which is one of the European university alliances created after a Sorbonne brain bubble of President Macron. There is some apprehension across the planet that this will lead to university alliances that will sort of foster a consolidated fortress research and education Europe, no longer as open to the rest of the world, but perhaps also no longer as open to the UK. Obviously, Edinburgh is now joined. Can you tell us something about perceptions of these alliances in the UK? Edinburgh, we know, is on board, but I'm just wondering, how is this seen as an opportunity or as a potential threat?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a really interesting one. So I can kind of talk about perceptions of university alliances from the experience of being in working in senior leadership in 2 British universities. So before I moved to Edinburgh, which was about 15 months ago, to take this role, I was the Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Enterprise in Cardiff, which KU live and also have a collaboration. So Cardiff had the ambition of developing its international partnerships, and so it's at a very much of an earlier stage than somewhere like Edinburgh, and kind of much more working on kind of bilateral partnerships with institutions in the world where they felt that they had opportunities to grow kind of mobility around students as well as research. So it was a kind of interesting environment in which to work that, as I say, was focused on that early stage development of partnerships, but very much in a kind of bilateral approach. When I moved to Edinburgh, I mean, the scale of Edinburgh's international reputation and engagement was kind of eye-opening compared to having been in Cardiff, that was on an earlier journey than Edinburgh. And one of the key differences was those alliances or networks which were considerably more universities, or kind of a suite of research intensive universities which also had considerable kind of focus on education and skills. And so that's been a kind of real experience and a difference for me in this senior leadership role than my previous one. And it's viewed incredibly positively. I mean, in the university, it's seen as a really positive asset for us. We enjoy working and collaborating with universities that have different perspectives, and having those different perspectives around the table when you're thinking about ways in which you can collaborate and partner and support your students. And we also feel that what they do is give us a kind of sense of different educational systems and approaches which help us innovate in the UK in the way in which we also do research and teaching. So they have been a really positive asset for the university. They're seen as something that's really important for the university to engage in, for staff to contribute to, and in which they also learn by taking part in those alliances. And from the perspective of reassociation, well, before reassociation to Horizon Europe, what involvement in those meant is it gave us a connection to European universities by your willingness to continue to include us in them, which kept us connected to Europe in a way which would be harder for universities that were just having kind of the odd bilateral partnership. So I think that has maintained our engagement in European funding. It's maintained our engagement and our visibility in partnership and in understanding other institutions in Europe. And what I'm hoping is that that will give us a kind of an advantage and the kind of real opportunity to accelerate what we do now we have reassociated with Horizon Europe, and some of that uncertainty about the way in which we can partner, contribute to those bigger consortium and alliances. Particularly, actually, we are really interested in boosting our engagement in the innovation pillar, and that's also a key goal of UK government, including around supporting businesses to engage in Horizon Europe. And I think being part of these alliances makes it easier to do that, and it certainly makes it easier to find expertise that people are willing to share with you as we develop our approach to re-engaging with Horizon Europe. So I think they're fantastic, and I feel there'd be very few people at the University of Edinburgh that would say our association and involvement in key alliances and European consortiums, some of which, of course, also go beyond Europe, is a bad thing for the university.
Thank you. There is a question in the front here.
Thank you. This is Faten Kazai. I am assistant professor in Northumbria, actually in Newcastle. And I'm here with the Marie Curie Fellowship because I couldn't bring the money actually to the UK because of the, this disassociation. So I'm very glad to hear that we can do that now. I have a simple question and a hard question. So I start with the first one. So yeah, I wanted to know when is exactly coming to force? From which deadline we can actually, apply for all of those instruments of the EU. And the harder one is, because it's not every day that we have, these eminent guests here, so I'm going to ask it. Actually, I'm very happy to be in Belgium now because the two important, hostile environment discourse of the, of the UK government, and also the defunding of administrative resources in the British universities are also big obstacles, actually, as it was mentioned. So it's not only about giving us the possibility of these collaborations. Is when I look at how the research offices here, they can actually help us in doing this kind of collaboration. So I just wanted to do a little bit of ranting about that. Thank you.
Maybe I'll pass the word first to the ambassador.
Sure. To take the second part first, as I said, the position of the UK government is we strongly believe in international collaboration. If you look at migration numbers into the UK, they're at record levels. We've significantly liberalised our migration policy towards the rest of the world since Brexit. We have record numbers of students coming to the UK to study. That's not a sort of an accident, that's a deliberate choice. So we very much welcome that. In terms of the administrative costs of British universities and cuts to the budget, I'm not really competent to answer, so I'm going to dodge that one because I just don't know. And in terms of getting on with sort of things under horizon and looking at collaboration with UK researchers, or from the UK looking at collaboration with researchers here, I think it's now the time to get on with it. This is agreed. You can get on with that with confidence. So please don't hesitate.
Could you comment on the administration question?
Yes, I don't know if I totally heard everything that you asked, but was it about the funding of universities in the UK? Yeah. So, well, it depends which university you're talking about. So, I mean, there's a very large number of universities in the UK, and the overall way that funding works for universities in the UK is effectively that there is a allocation for students, kind of home students, and then of course we have fees that we charge for international students, which effectively makes up the income for the universities. What we know is that across all the countries within the UK, that the amount of money for home students is now not really at the level of what it costs us to deliver that full education. We also know that with regards to research, so for example, if you're funded for research through an organisation like UKRI, then you'll get 80% of the full economic costing, and the other bit is topped up through effectively the university, which also comes in through other mechanisms of us receiving research investment, such as money that we'll receive as part of our research excellence framework outcomes. So the UK has a funding strategy for research, which is dual support, which is unhypothecated investment that we get, that we can use in any way we wish to invest in research, and that is quite handy, it has to be said, as well as a proportion of funding that we'll get for grants that we submit. So overall, there is a bit of a shortfall around students, and there's a bit of a shortfall around research, and effectively through our attractiveness in the UK to international students as really one of the leading higher education systems in the world, where many universities are very attractive to international students. It's almost 50% now in Edinburgh of international students, and that does allow us to accommodate some of the shortcomings in other areas of our investment. So depending upon your competitiveness for international students and the scale of your research intensity, I always get that one wrong, and what your gap might be with regards to how much of that you're having to fund yourself, that will impact an individual university's kind of financial resilience and sustainability, and how much it can invest itself in its own infrastructure, its facilities, and in people to support them as they apply for applications such as fellowships. So that's a kind of broad little snapshot of how the university funding system works in the UK. Certainly in the context of the University of Edinburgh, we're in a very strong financial position, and that does allow us to invest significantly in research. And that's fundamental to us because we're one of the world's significant research-intensive university. We're part of many research-intensive consortium and alliances, and it's fundamental to us that we support people and our staff and our students in the university to do well and to be competitive with research.
One more question in the back.
Thank you so much for being here and a nice talk, Dear Excellency and Professor Graham. We have seen from the presentation that the Belgian perspective, that we have seen that the UK is a very important partner in terms of joint publications and also the number of projects. I think it was, for example, it was around 15% in the joint publications, the third ranked. I would like to learn more about the UK perspective. What is the percentage in terms of number of joint publications and the projects of with the Belgian universities? And do you have other plans to increase that share other than the EU projects, like bilateral projects and collaborations? Thank you.
I don't know if you have these numbers at hand, but
I don't have them at hand, so unfortunately I don't have them at hand, and I've also learned through being a scientist to never provide numbers unless I'm absolutely sure of them. So I won't on this occasion. I mean, in terms of strategies. I mean, I think there's two ways, and maybe the ambassador can talk about this as well. From the perspective of the University of Edinburgh, international partnership is fundamental to every piece of the academic mission that we deliver. We have a really strong student population that's also very international. It's very important to us. I mean, I think it's something like 50% from 160 countries. I do know those figures for our students. We have a significant international staff population, which is also very strongly European. And our collaborations internationally and our international reach is important for our research because it's also about understanding needs and accessing and working in collaboration and expertise elsewhere in the world and delivering global impact. So I worry less about numbers and rankings and how many cited papers, more upon what is the remit and the role of a university in terms of its global strategy and how it can use its influence, its impact, its knowledge to make a difference to the world. So that's really what drives our ambitions and our global strategy and who we consider who we want to work with, aligned to the problems that we think are important and shared understanding of those problems. So it's more what you'd hope is out of that partnership that you see clear examples of those collaborations through shared papers, really highly cited work that's making a difference and strong scale of grants and funding to support that innovation. And that's also not just about partnership with other universities, it's very much about partnership with businesses and other organisations, really aligned to the type of ambition that the UK government and other devolved governments have around the UK in being a place of economic growth and productivity. And there's very clear commitment as part of things like the Science and Technology Framework through the UK Government Department of Science, Innovation and Technology to international partnership and also to that environment that promotes and supports international collaboration. So we have very much a shared agenda in that regard because the UK needs to be a country that works cooperatively internationally, and that's better for us and it's better for the world, I think.
Maybe I'll ask a final question myself, and I'll ask it to both of you. And it's again going back to the reintegration process that is now happening or supposed to happen, where we discussed how communication will be important so that everyone knows about this opportunity, that we try to stimulate by bringing experts together, building networks. But we have seen how after the referendum, the participation rates dropped in the framework programs. And we commonly do believe that it is due to an uncertain climate financially. Now, if we then look into the future, we now have a commitment, and of course we're all very happy about that, for a clear association to Europe Horizon. But what after that? Of course, we are already looking into Framework Program 10. There again, maybe researchers need kind of a certain climate in order to engage and to feel confident that they can engage in such collaborative projects. So should we be, maybe in a way, be greedy, but also look into FP10 at this moment already?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent point, and I think absolutely we should be thinking forward and starting those discussions now. In fact, I'm sure some of them probably already have started. I mean, I think from the UK perspective, it would be important to us that the successor programme to Horizon Europe is very strongly focused on academic excellence and an open approach to collaboration. Occasionally, I mean, we're not a member state of the European Union, so it will be for the European Union to decide this. But I hope that our re-entry into Horizon Europe, the presence of all of the other associated countries, including some incredibly innovative countries, of course. I mean, Israel's an associated member, for example, and I think they have the highest R&D spend anywhere in the world, proportionately to the economy. Hopefully Switzerland will come back in. And I hope that will demonstrate that the approach taken through Horizon of an open approach to academic collaboration, of keeping issues of strategic autonomy and so on within reasonable bounds, pays dividends, and that will be a very powerful sort of message to those who are looking at the design of the next programme. Obviously, I can't say at the moment whether the UK would be part of the next programme. It won't just be our decision, of course, but clearly the more successful this association to Horizon is for us, for Horizon Europe, for all of the other members, I think the stronger the chances of that. So I really hope those discussions will start. I think it's something that we would be very interested in as a government, but I'm sure also British universities would be very interested in contributing to those discussions.
Thank you. Of course, I understand these discussions are complex, but I also think they would be very timely because we see the long-term effects that this takes, and so that probably we need engagement or an explicit engagement soon in order to convince researchers that this is something sustainable. Maybe I'll ask your opinion on this as well, Provost Graham.
Thank you very much, and it's not much different at all to the ambassador. I mean, I think we have to show that the decision to reassociate is a good one, and we have to show that we're interested and engaged in making it work, and it's bringing real value to the UK and to the European Union. So we have an opportunity to re-engage, to start those conversations, to accelerate our collaborations, and I think it's very fortunate that we're in a position to do that. And I said this in my speech. I mean, we can't squander that opportunity, and it is difficult to kind of get the car moving from the drive when it's been at a bit of a standing point, and you've got to accelerate it down the road. But we must think of all the ways that we can to identify opportunities to work together again, where we're already doing it, where we can expand on that, and where there are new opportunities that really present excellent high-value propositions to the European Union, to Horizon Europe. I also think I mentioned business. I think it's really important to see that this is not just about universities. There are many other organisations that can apply for funding, and I think one of the key challenges we have in the UK is probably less to accelerate interest in Horizon Europe from universities, because they're very much engaged in that conversation and they're interested in taking part. But actually those other organisations are far more of a standing start than universities. But it's an absolutely fantastic outcome. There's been many people, organisations have worked over a long period of time to make make it happen. And I just think what we need to do is work out what's the very best way that we can get those partnerships working. How can we collaborate together, and how can we really show that we're making best value of this opportunity, and it's one that we want for the long-term future.
Okay, thank you. I think with those beautiful words, we'll end the session of today. Of course, first of all, I would like to thank both the lecturers very much to be here today and to share their thoughts with us this evening. And I want to thank all of you to participate in this discussion. Thank you.